We're going to go over the 8th claim now, and that is God being when ندعي أن الله تعالى منزه عن أن يوصف بالاستقرار على العرش, that we say that Allah is above, beyond, and transcendent from being described as physically settled on the throne. Any being situated on something must have size, and that would imply that it could be larger, smaller, or equal to that thing that it is being situated upon. So this cannot, of course, be applicable to God, Allah. As we have said, He is beyond the 6 directions, and He is beyond any composition and any size. And if He was to be physically settled upon the throne, then that would mean that He has a relationship of size with this throne. This is because only bodies sit on bodies, and God is neither a body nor an attribute. An important point to note here is that a lot of people nowadays have this. So nowadays, a lot of people, they have this discussion. They say that God must be somehow, we 100% say God is above the throne, and the word above is suitable. He is in a direction. If you say that Allah isn't a body, and like a physical, when we said body, remember how we defined a body? We said a body is something that can be divided into an atom, and in here in a space, we said something that is in a space and it can be divided further, that is a body. And from our experience, a throne is, if you take its literal understanding and meaning from what we can think of, a throne is something which is a body and is made up of things, and you could divide it further. But if this throne is some metaphysical kind of throne, we don't really know what it is. We might not be a body, and Allah isn't sitting on it physically, or He's not even sitting, because that's something that's only established through a big hadith. In Muslim Ahmad, there is a da'if hadith, and some people call it munkar hadith. But if you say He's settled upon the throne, then it must be in a way that does not imply any limitation, such as a physical body sitting on another one. So then there are verses like ar-Rahmanu al-arsh istawa, right? The merciful rose over the throne, and hadith like in yanzilullahu ila sama'i dunya, yanzilullahu kulla laylatin ila sama'i dunya, that Allah descends to the lowest heaven every night. And the appropriate response for these kind of narrations, these verses, it depends on the audience. For common people, it's best not to delve into interpretations. And this is what Imam Ghazali is saying. قلنا الكلام على الظاهر الواردة في هذا الباب طويل، ولكن نذكر منهجا في هذين الظاهرين يرشد إلى ما عداه، وهو أن نقول الناس في هذا فريقان عوام وعلماء. There are two groups of people in this: the normal population and the scholarly class scholars. So he says, as for those people that are considered to be amongst the general masses, then it is more appropriate for them that they should not delve into the interpretations of these verses. Rather, we should just remove them from any deviant type of beliefs that might indicate likening Allah to His creation, and which might indicate towards Allah being something which isn't eternal, something that began to exist. And we confirm with them that Allah exists, and these verses, they exist. وَنُحَقِّقُ إِنَّهُمْ أَنَّهُ مَوْجُودٌ لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ. We say that Allah is present, He exists, and there is nothing like Him. وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ, and He is the all-hearing and all-seeing. Imam Ghazali, rahimahullah, a great Ash'ari authority, he is saying that you just accept these. Without any. We just say we believe in the verses, but you don't need to delve within them interpretations. And وَيُجَابُ بِمَا أَجَابَ بِهِ مَالِكٌ, and you respond with the response of Imam Malik, rahimahullah, Malik ibn Anas radiyallahu anhu. So you respond the way Imam Malik ibn Anas radiyallahu anhu responded. بعض السلف حيث سئل عن الاستواء. Some of the Salaf, Imam Ghazali is saying, so this is what he believes that the Salaf believed in, or the way this is how he believes that they responded when they were asked about istiwa. فقال الاستواء معلوم والكيفية مجهول. The istiwa is known and the modality is unknown. والسؤال عنه بدعة, and asking about it is an innovation. والإيمان به واجب, believing in it is wajib. This is because the minds of the masses aren't flexible, are not wide enough to accept the intelligible things, and they cannot comprehend or completely comprehend the language, and they cannot understand the vastness of the Arabic language in its metaphors. So he's saying here that because some of these Arabic words, they have metaphors which are quite deep, and you have to search for their meanings. Like Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, who said, look at the poetry. Look at the poetry of the Arabs when you want to find out the meaning of something. And he used to go to and ask the Bedouins how they used certain words, if they were used in different ways. So that's why the general masses of the people, and Imam Ghazali was from Iran, and they were masters of Arabic, although they were Arabized and they learned Arabic and they were speaking Arabic, weren't fully aware of the classical Arabic at that time, classical Arabic. So it might have been difficult for them to see a relationship between a literal meaning and a figurative meaning, and which may lead to further confusion. We need to say is that the scholars, they should learn the meaning of these things. ولست أقول أن ذلك فرض عين إذ لم يرد به تكليف بل التكليف التنزيه عن كل ما تشبه بغيره. He's saying, and now he says, look, he's trying to say, look, I'm not saying that this is something which is necessary upon every individual to know, because Allah hasn't told us that we have to learn like this. Allah hasn't burdened us like this. Rather, we have been burdened with tanzih. We have to say Allah is transcendent from anything that is similar to Him, because of laysa kamithlihi shay. A common polemic today is found that because the lay people, they might just simply say that Allah is above on His throne, and I don't think this is true at all today, to be honest, but that might have been true at a time. And there are some books, and there's this polemic that that lay people, they would say that Allah is above His throne, and the Ash'ari scholars say they are kafirs for saying this. But this is so foolish, and it's not true. Rather, the lay people know that Allah is nothing like His creation, and this has been enforced within them, and they know this as a foundational thing. So Imam Ghazali here is saying it's not necessary to know things like even the figurative meaning of words, let alone these principles and these methods and the atomism that arises because of their conclusion. So there's no need for awam to even partake in these ta'wilat. So common people take terms like istiwa and nuzul literally. Scholars interpret metaphorically to avoid anthropomorphism. But don't so one thing here that to know is you shouldn't compare these words like istiwa al-arsh to the huruf muqatti'at. The huruf muqatti'at is like alif lam mim, because those words don't have any previous meaning in Arabic. So there wasn't anything in the Arabic language where people would go around saying alif lam mim or hamim or tasin, and these were known meanings. Whereas the mutashabihat verses, like Ar-Rahman al-Arsh istawa, or even the descent, the nuzul of Allah, these words by themselves were used in the Arabic language, and the people knew what they meant. So anyways, getting to the point, this movement, like maybe Ar-Rahman al-Arsh istawa nuzul, it's not a physical movement. So some people say that it could refer to the angelic descent or divine commandment, especially. So he's now specifically discussing yanzilullahu ta'ala ila sama'i dunya. So it could be referring to the angels descending or the divine command of Allah coming down. Language allows attributing actions of subordinates to the superiors. So it might be that. So for example, sometimes a messenger might come, and or an army might come, and people say the king has came, but he's not literally the king has come. So God's being with you also. Everyone accepts that this means Allah's awareness and knowledge. It's not His physical presence. So it's a metaphorical expression. Another thing is saying the heart is between the two fingers of Allah, so it just refers to Allah's control. So when he says Allah comes running, he's talking about His swift mercy. And then there's a narration where he says the black hand is Allah's right hand. He's talking about, it's an honor. He's honoring the black stone. It's not a literal limb. So it shows that there are metaphorical expressions that are being used in the tradition, the hadith and the Quran. So istiwa, rising over the throne, it cannot mean a physical elevation, and it's best interpreted as authority, control, or directed attention. This is supported by Arabic usage. For example, there's a poet called Bashir, and he said Bashir rose over Iraq. So this meant that he took control without force. So when he said Bashir rose over Iraq, it means he took control of it. And then the meaning of descent, nuzul, in the hadith, it's about, which is Allah transcends to the lowest heaven. There's three possible meanings of descent. It could be physical movement, which is impossible for Allah because He requires a body and spatial movement, and Allah is not dependent on. Allah isn't a body because He doesn't exist in a space, and He isn't divisible into atoms, right? And also it would imply if it could. So if it's not physical movement, what does it mean for Allah to descend? Some might say, it means that He has a loss of rank or status, and of course Allah's majesty is eternal, so it's impossible for Him to lose rank. Or it can be metaphorical for kindness and mercy. And this is acceptable meaning because it implies divine condescension and nearness. Allah's mercy is near. So reason that it's for the metaphorical descent. The reason that the Prophet might have said this is to encourage people to pray and not to be deterred by awe of divine majesty. right? So you're saying Allah descends. Imagine the king is coming down, the king of kings is lowering himself, not literally but metaphorically. This shows that Allah isn't such a, because some people might feel so awed by, so much in awe by the divine presence that they believe completely disconnected from him. So the Prophet ﷺ is saying you don't have to feel such awe. In fact, Allah even comes down in the lowest part of the night, so you listen, and so your du'as will be accepted. So God's response to supplication is framed as a descent to reassure and invite the believers. Without this mercy, the majesty of Allah would paralyze the hearts and tongues and limbs from worshipping. People, there are people still like this. They see themselves within so much sin. Some people think that they're so sinful that they don't deserve to worship Allah. But the Prophet ﷺ is saying from this hadith that this, and so Allah is someone that is close and near. And you can say there's a cultural context here as well. The earthly kings show aloofness, right? That they are distant from the people, whereas Allah's descent contrasts with that, showing divine accessibility. So an example is people fear approaching kings, but Allah is inviting them through His mercy. Why is it referring to the lowest heaven here? The lowest heaven is used as a symbolic of the lowest level. Like someone saying he fell to the dust. It denotes closeness and accessibility. Then why is it at night? Because the best time for sincere supplication, it's quiet. It's a quiet time. There's fewer distractions. The hearts are more focused. There's a smaller chance of doing things out of the cupboard. And then this ninth claim, and it's actually quite a deep discussion as well. I'll discuss it next time, inshallah. It's that God can be seen. He can be visible despite not being a body or physical object. It's possible for Him to be seen. And we'll discuss that next time, inshallah.